Hello. So this week we are talking about time and how traditional African, Indian, Aboriginal relationships with time and the concept of time in those contexts is very different to how we see time now. So sit back, relax, and pontificate with me about this really strange but interesting concept. All right, so picture this. I'm on the N1. The sun is beating down my face as I drive from Joburg to Cape Town. And I'm now driving through the Karoo where there is really nothing to see. As you look to your left, is a wide open field of tumbleweeds and burnt grass and sand with mountains in the distance. As you look to your right, more of the same: tumbleweeds, burnt grass, sand, and mountains in the distance. You can barely even see where the road ends as it just disappears into a mirage in the distance. And as I'm on this mind-numbing road, listening to the umpteenth episode of a podcast I am now no longer interested in, the thought came to me as I watched people, zooming past at 140 kilometers per hour, pressuring these trucks to get onto the shoulder of the road. And, just really, just people being nuisances on the road. Not to say that I didn't overtake a truck or two, but it wasn't so earth-shattering to me to be behind a truck, for a couple of minutes, knowing that eventually the road will diverge but go back into having two lanes and I'll have my opportunity to overtake, because that's just how the road is. Now, for those of you who've never made, that trek, or who've never been on a long distance drive, you'll find that there are oftentimes long stretches of road where there's one lane for one direction and one lane for another direction. And that'll happen for a long stretch of time, but periodically, as a way of, relieving traffic and all of these things, there will be sections of the road where it will split off into two lanes for one direction and one lane for the other direction. And that will happen for like a kilometer, and then it'll go back to being one lane while the other side opens up into two lanes. And it won't happen, like one right after the other, right after the other, right after the other. You might spend several kilometers driving in that one lane. And, especially when you're in a rush, right? Because this hit me especially when I, first started my drive and the sun was really starting to bother me, and I was irritated by the fact that I left later than I wanted to begin with. And had I left earlier, I'd be a lot closer now, and and just all this frustration. But then I thought to myself, you know what I mean? That me rushing and, going up to 140 and just, whizzing past people because I don't see any oncoming traffic, this, that, and the other, even though like it's a blind turn on a hill type vibe, that it just wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? Like, Cape Town isn't running away. No matter how fast or slow I go, I'm gonna get there as long as I just keep moving. You know what I mean? And is Cape Town, or is arriving in Cape Town, worth the risk of this, risky ass behavior, when I know for a fact that there will be a time where I can, overtake and move on? And maybe I'm too far back in the queue that by the time, we reach or by the time I reach the point where the roads diverge, right, I have to let so many other cars go through ahead of me that I still end up behind a truck as the roads converge, but I'll be, closer to the front now, which will guarantee that the next time the road diverges again, or the next time the road splits into two, I'll have my chance to overtake. Either way, I'm getting to my destination, and I'd rather get there in one piece with the car still intact, not, overheating the engine, all of these other things. You know what I mean? Getting there isn't the main thing, right? And I'm not willing to risk the health and safety of my body and my car just to arrive in a city that honestly has not been kind to me, but that's neither here nor there. Point is, once I sort of, got that in my head, right, the rest of the drive just became so easy because that was the one thing that was in my mind. I'm getting there. I'm still moving forward. You know what I mean? And as long as I see myself moving forward, I am going to get there, right? And if I get to a point where I'm super tired, I must stop, take a nap. You know what I mean? And even then, before this little mindset shift, the idea of stopping at a petrol station, like, yes, I knew it was necessary, but, the idea of all those trucks that I overtook to get here, they're gonna drive past, and then I'm gonna be back behind them again. Do you get what I mean? And I'm like, oh, so maybe I shouldn't make my stop that long, like just 2 minutes, stretch my legs, da 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 da. And now after I sort of like accepted that I'm getting to Cape Town, I was like, yeah, they can pass me, you know what I mean? And in the same way that I passed them the first time, when or if I catch up to them, I'll pass them again. So like, what exactly is the beef here? Do you get what I mean? Don't mind that plastic. It's just the plastic that's sitting on my head. But that was like, just a wonderful little like aha moment, because it made me realize that life is like that as well. You know what I mean? That sometimes, like I said or maybe slightly contradictory to my previous episode, but, we're always in such a rush. To get to the final destination, right? That I just want to see myself being wealthy and rich and happy. That's all I want. And you don't really care about how you get there. And how you get there is just as important, right? Because how you get there will determine whether there is worth it or not. Do you get what I mean? Like, I was happy to be in Cape Town, you know what I mean? And I arrived in one piece and my car's still working. And 2 days later, I went on another long drive to a really cool beach, and I was able to do that because I didn't, burn my car out just to get to Cape Town. To do what? Now I'm in Cape Town, but I don't have a car and I'm trapped in my apartment and it's hot in here, so what did I gain from, rushing to get here? And that's oftentimes, what happens in life, where when we choose to take shortcuts and when we choose not to really take things, slow and, at whatever pace we're moving at, and you will meet obstacles. There will be things in your way, but life is not linear. You know what I mean? And this is where we get to the topic of time, that more often than not, we think, right? And we've been taught from a very early age, right, that time is our most valuable resource. And much like, the 5 Rand coin that your grandmother might have given you as a child and told you not to spend it all in one place, we're told, you know what I mean, that you need to make the most of your time. Right, that you cannot just waste your time on foolish errands and foolish interests. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to use your time, it needs to serve a greater purpose. You know what I mean? You can't just waste your day lounging around in bed doing nothing, a whole day wasted for what? And I don't know about you, but I have a hard time staying in bed all day. And when I get like really depressed, I won't have the energy to leave my bed, but there'll just be this like sense of self-loathing that comes over me for the whole day. Like I can't leave my bed, I couldn't be bothered. But at the same time, there's this niggling part of, the back of my brain that is like watching me waste a day, and it's going over a long list of things I could have been doing with my time, and even if I do get up to be productive at some point, I'm still resenting myself for the time I wasted lying in bed. Had I gotten out of bed an hour earlier, I would have, had more progress at this point, and it's useless, you know what I mean? Because in the colonial Western way of thinking, yes, time is linear. That you have this budget and you need to make the most of your time. So you cram that time up with like hobbies and social gatherings and work and, you know what I mean, and all sorts of things, and your romantic interests and your this and your that, and every second of your day is accounted for. And if you're not with anyone, then you're on your phone and you're catching up on social media, and you need to know like what's going on, because the next time you meet up with people, you need to know what's up, and you need to know that like, what's the latest tea and all these other things, right? And like you just never have a moment of just silence. And that's the Western way. That's the Western way of doing things, right? It's predicated on the scarcity mindset that, there's only room for 5 successful people at a time, and you need to fight and claw and sabotage to get your way to the top, right? And that if you've missed your moment, you've missed your moment, and your opportunity to be successful has passed you, and all of these other things. And that's not true. In the traditional sense of time, that time is seen as more cyclical, right? Where things come and things go. And if it's meant for you, that it will return, and that nothing is finite. You know what I mean? That all things, when done in balance with everything else, is infinite. That, some belief systems that believe in reincarnation believe, that this is not our first time here, nor is it our last. And your aim with your life is merely to experience as much as you can, right? And to learn as much as you can, to gain the wisdom necessary to pass that on to your next life, right? To gather enough good fortune for your next life and all of these things. But that, everything in life cycles out and cycles through, much like the seasons. It's not like, well, shit, I just missed winter, I'm never gonna have another winter again. Like, and this is not to say that you should take life for granted, but it's to also understand that you need to savor the moments that you're in. The moment that you're in is there to serve a purpose for you, right? Learn what you need to learn from that moment so you can move past it. Because if you don't learn from that moment and take everything that is meant for you in that moment, it will return. It will return. And you will keep going over the same experiences until you learn what you need to learn. Do you get what I mean? Same thing in the previous episode where I asked, what will it take for you to believe in yourself, for you to pursue your dreams fully without reservation and without shame? This is the thing, right? What will it take for you to learn what you need to learn from certain experiences, right? You find yourself repeating the same patterns because you're not in the moment. You are looking ahead and you're not even fully present. So you're not taking stock of these experiences that you're having. So they reappear in your life in a different way, right? each time trying to get your attention, each time trying to make you aware of a certain element of your personality, your life, your being that is out of balance. And once you learn and adjust, right, other things will be revealed to you and you will learn and adjust to those things, but you take them as they come. Yes, it's good to, have goals and have dreams and have things that you are working towards, but not to the extent where you feel like you're on a time crunch. Do you get what I mean? You will get there when you get there. But in the interim, do not sacrifice who you are now. Sacrifice your morals, your values, your relationships, the things that matter to you, your health and your sanity, for this faraway thing that is actually standing still. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the sort of like traveling to Cape Town analogy really hit me in my chest, where I'm just like, what is meant for me, the life that I want, it's not running away. It's not running away, avoiding me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's Lebo, gotta bounce. Not at all. It is standing still. And the choice is mine to move towards it or not, right? So if I decided that like I'm going to rush through it and whatever, I could have gotten into an accident, right? And then never gotten to Cape Town. Or the car breaks down and now I'm stuck. And maybe a repairman comes and he fixes the car. And it's super expensive. These emergency calls driving out in the middle of nowhere, like it's super expensive. So now I've dipped into my savings. But okay, the car's moving finally, and instead of learning my lesson from the fact that, like, you know what, actually checking in with myself and being present in the moment and saying, you know what, I was rushing and I was driving recklessly and I was pushing the car in this weather, in this environment with the aircon on full blast. The car was bound to break down. I need to take it easy on the road. You know what I mean? That's it. Then you get in and you drive. Now, not racing every driver you see, but actually just going at a steady pace. And you eventually get to your destination. Or you suck your teeth in frustration, right? Throw your purse back in the car, like just pissed off that you just paid the amount of money that you did. And now you wasted so much time waiting for this motherfucker to show up. And, he took his sweet ass time fixing your car. And now you're going to arrive late. You're not going to get to Cape Town when you wanted to. And it's all terrible. So you get in the car and you slam on the gas and you go. And 50, 100 kilometers down the road, boom. The car's smoking again. The car's choking. And you're stuck on the side of the road again. You have no idea how many people I saw stuck on the side of the road because their car was giving them trouble. Not to say that they started the trip with a roadworthy vehicle to begin with, but that's also something else to question. Do you get what I mean? Why did we get into this vehicle without checking that it was 100%, able to get us to our destination? And these are things that if you don't learn them, that you will find yourself in this predicament time and time again, where people end up traveling around with a gallon of water in their vehicles because they know that the engine overheats all the time. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to have to maybe take the bus for a while we save up to get a new engine. And that, yes, it's going to set us back a little bit, but it will mean that when we move, we will not be set back as far as we would be if we keep trudging this dead engine around. But our refusal to learn and our refusal to let go of things that no longer serve us, the engine, when it was working, brought us to where we are right now. But now it's time to let go. Same thing with certain friendships where you're like, well, this friendship and this relationship, it really helped me. It meant a lot, but it's no longer serving me. It's actually draining my life force and it's holding me back, right? Your friendship and, your lack of imagination, your lack of ambition, all of these things are holding me back. And I'm on a mission to get somewhere. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to let go of this relationship. But instead, because we never really pause and take stock of our lives and, are present in the moment because we're constantly chasing, the next thing and all of these other things, that's how we lose sight of like, okay, cool, what do I actually need to get to where I'm going? You know what I mean? Are all these things necessary? Are all these things necessary? And then learn whatever you need to learn to keep growing. And you might die before ever getting to Cape Town. But you will have learned so much and you will have had so much wisdom to share with the people around you. Do you get what I mean? And that maybe that was your life's purpose. But you were able to take the route with integrity, right? Honoring yourself, honoring your needs, and honoring your values as you moved along, right? So going back to this whole time thing, when we sort of see time as everything happening when it needs to be. So an example, this lovely podcaster that I love so much, I'll tag her below because she was discussing something similar. She used an example of, when she takes a cab in, I think, Uganda, she said. And, she asked the cab driver, like, what time will we get there? You know what I mean? Like, what's the ETA? And he replied, God willing, we'll get there when we get there. You know what I mean? And I think there's something beautiful because as much as, yes, we desire certain things and we are well within our rights to pursue those things are not owed to us. Do you get what I mean? So believe in God or not, right? But quote unquote, God willing, if you get to where you need to go, right, you'll get there at a time that is right. There's never a wrong time to achieve a goal. Do you get what I mean? Whenever you achieve that goal will be the right time. And yes, you may look back and wish you had made different choices, but at the time you didn't know what you know now. So there's really no use in looking back and judging yourself or wasting time on the wrong decisions, because then again, that goes towards the Western way of thinking where time is ever something that can be wasted. Because in the traditional sense of things, no. You do things when the time is right to do them and not a second sooner. And the time will be right and it will be clear to you when the time is right if you are present in the moment. If you can see and assess the things around you, see that like, okay, cool. I took this job at the time because it served a need that I had at the time. I no longer have that need. My needs have since changed, right? And therefore, whatever I use as my source of sustenance also needs to change. But you'll find people in a dead-end job for like 30 years and they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how 30 years went by without me even noticing. And it's because we use these little distractions and these other things to escape our lives, right? And quote unquote waste our time on these things, when these are the things that are really robbing us, right? These are the things that are disconnecting us from our environment So then time just keeps moving and things just keep cycling back and forth, and there's never any growth, right? And you just stay stuck in the same place forever because you've never lifted your eyes and actually looked around at what's going on around you, what's going on internally. Because standing still and actually being present is a scary thing to do. And the Western world provides us with many distractions, right? If you're focused on the future and what's next, you're never in the present, right? You'll find people who've just won prestigious awards, people who've just done amazing things with themselves, for themselves or whatever. And then the interviewer is just like, oh, well, Johnny Bravo, what's next for you? What? Like, bitch, can I not just enjoy this achievement, this momentous thing that you yourself would struggle to achieve, but somehow it is not big enough because I still have a pulse. I still owe you more. I still owe the world more achievements. Like, no, 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 no. This concept of what's next is killing us because we never really get into what's happening right now, what's going on with me and my environment, and me and my relationship with my people. Like, what is going on there? You know what I mean? How am I right now? What do I need to adjust to feel more at peace, to feel more, energetic, to feel whatever I actually want to be feeling instead of what I'm feeling right now? What can I do to fix that? Right? What can I be grateful for in this moment? That yes, I'm not where I want to be, but I have a roof over my head. I have people that I care about. I have a family who loves me, or I have this, that, and the other, or I have a job. That yes, I'm unhappy with the job now, but at some point I prayed for this job, right? I really wanted this job, and I'm grateful that I have it because this job is proof positive that I can get what I want in life, right? That I can desire things and they can come true. But if you're not present in your own life, you are unable to gather evidence of your successes, evidence of your ability to overcome, difficult situations. You aren't able to gather the evidence necessary to propel you forward into the other things that you desire. That part of the reason why you're feeling stuck is because you're not acknowledging all that you've overcome, all that you are. You're not acknowledging yourself. You're not seeing yourself fully. And how can you if there's constantly the question of what's next, what's next, what's next? Because we're not taught in this Western world to be satisfied with anything, that nothing could ever be good enough, which is not true, right? And which is not how we were meant to live. We were meant to live understanding that there's enough. And this is how, even things like with politics, where politicians become obsessed with power and refuse to let go of it instead of understanding. Ooh, I'm yawning a lot. Apologies. I really hope you're not listening to this driving to work or anything. But that understanding that I've served my time, that everything I have to offer to this nation, to this group, whoever, is in leadership and whatever they're leading, that, I have given all that I have to give. And hopefully I've trained up, good people to take over and to continue my work and to push it further, that I can only take it so far. And that the rest is for the younger generation to continue, right? But no, there's no sense of enough. So we will keep, being gluttons for punishment, constantly pushing ourselves to the brink of death to satisfy an unattainable goal, instead of really taking a step back and saying, yeah, this and this and this would be nice, but really and truly, I'm good. I'm not worried about money anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I've finally sorted my finances and like, you know, I'm financially stable, the kids are happy or I'm in a happy relationship or whatever. Even if things aren't looking super fantastic, right? But you're kind of just like, yeah, I've got my health in order, I've got a good plan together, you know what I mean? And I'm working on fixing things and I seem to be on track. I've really been standing up for myself and I'm on track to achieve my goals by 2027, you know what I mean? Whatever. But you're just like I'm pretty good right now. You know what I mean? And it is from that solid foundation that you can then build, right? But if you don't even know where you're standing right now, like how can you ever chart a path to where you want to go? You have to be present and you have to recognize the things that are happening around you, good or bad, so that you can log these things, so that you can take note of them and learn. Our only purpose on this planet is to learn. It is our first time here, our first time as people in these bodies, in these lives. So all we can really do is be present, experience it all, and learn. And then pass on our learnings to future generations that we encounter, right? Whether you have children of your own or you write a book or you get into a particular industry, whatever life you lead, you will always be in a position where you can share your knowledge with other people. And that's all we do is share what we've learn from others, and keep going. That's it. That's it. That's life. So why make it a super intense chase for the next best thing? What the fuck is that? And what that means and what that implies implicitly is that our lives are not good enough right now. The same thing of telling someone that they have potential implies that who they are right now isn't good enough, but they could be good if they wanted to be. Right? Instead of like, you're fantastic right now. You're amazing, absolutely amazing. And you have the ability to do many amazing things if you wanted to. You don't have to. Your worth is not tied up into your last great achievement, right? But your worth is intrinsically there because you exist. You are worthy because you exist, period. Your life is worthwhile because it is your life, period. Not because, your mom loves you and everybody's going to be so sad if you die. Like, no, no. Outside of your mom and all these other people who love you, you matter and you're important. So that's my little chit chat on time. It's not necessarily how you're spending your time, but what are you doing with the time that you have? Because our lives are not promised. And are you really going to die and having never really lived in the moment, only ever knowing your life retrospectively? Well, yeah, these things happened and this thing happened, and you know what I mean? And it's just a series of happenings instead of really knowing what your life felt like, what it meant to be in your body, what it meant to hug a close friend and the warmth of their body, the smell of their hair, the feeling of their hands on your back. What does it, feel like to wake up on a Saturday morning and to hear dishes clanking in the kitchen as your mother or partner prepares breakfast for you and the smell wafting into your room, leading you, off the bed and into the kitchen to join your mother and or partner, in preparing breakfast? What does it feel like to just to laugh from your belly with tears rolling down your eyes in the company of someone you love and feel safe with? What does it feel like to be loved and to feel safe? And maybe you've never experienced those things before. but maybe you have and didn't acknowledge them either. What does it feel like to be terrified? To not know if you're going to live past this moment? What did that mean? What came up for you in those moments? Who were the people that you wanted to call on for help? And why didn't you? All of these little things you'll know by being present with yourself in the moment, instead of ignoring and avoiding yourself because you're afraid to face your deepest fears. You're afraid to face the truth of your existence, that you are not living fully, that you are maybe not happy with how your life is, and that maybe you're not willing to do the uncomfortable thing to change it. So your life exists in a loop, repeating the same mistakes, crying over the same thing, never growing, never learning. I don't know. That's just my thought for today. It might not resonate, it might, but either way, I wish you a wonderful day, and please take care of yourself. Now, listen, I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but we got to the point eventually. So I hope this inspires you to just be present with yourself. Don't avoid the good or the bad feelings. Just sit in it for that moment. Acknowledge it, feel it, count to 10, and move on. I hope that this episode inspires you to be an active participant in your life and to question things more. Question how you spend your time. Question your relationship with time and whether you do treat it like a scarce resource and cram as much in as you can, leading to burnout and frustration. Or are you really taking the moment to really soak in your moments, soak in your life, and enjoy, savor every moment of it? Until next time, bye.